On September 30th, 1998, Pokémon Red and Blue were released in North America, becoming a phenomenon overnight that would last for years. I was 4 years old at the time, and at my school, everyone was talking about it. Some of us would watch the show while we waited for our parents to pick us up. Some kids were lucky enough to have their own Game Boy and a copy of Pokémon Red to pass the time. I wasn't one of them. Yeah, I was that kid, the one in the playground who sat around and watched everyone else play rather than play along with them. The one who always begged his friends for the slightest chance to play them. I played video games before with them, of course, but I never got the chance to play anything like Pokémon. So of course, I'd beg my parents to buy me a Game Boy and the game to go along with it. On my 5th birthday, my wish was granted. I opened up a present for my parents and found my very own Game Boy Color and my very first game...
NBA on NBC?
Yeah, this was the very first game I ever owned. A sports title made by the same people who published Mortal Kombat. But we're not going to talk about that since, aside from being the very first game that I ever owned, there's very little that I have to say on it, and it holds little nostalgic value. I was still happy that I had my very own Game Boy, though the disappointment of not having a Pokemon game wouldn't go away as my friends would continue to play and trade among themselves. Around my 7th birthday, my uncle stopped by and dropped off a present for me. In it was a strategy guide and a copy of Pokemon Silver. When I first popped this into my Game Boy, my mind was blown. I had never played anything like it. There were so many battles enjoyed, memories made, friendships formed, and hundreds of hours poured into this portable masterpiece. To this day, it remains among my favorite games, and the first step into my love for video games.
I wish I could say that I still own the original version my uncle gave me, but my brother, he stole it and gave it to one of his friends, and I never got it back. And yet he wonders why I don't let him play with my 2 gold versions.
From then on, I was hooked on the series. I would hunt down the older games that I missed out on and look forward to every new entry with breathless enthusiasm. That is, I used to look forward to them. Around the time that the DS generations hit, my excitement in the series began to wane, even as me and my friends would play, trade, and battle one another more than we ever did before. Yes, Diamond and Pearl made several improvements to battles, and I admire Black and White for what it was trying to do to shake things up, but trying and accomplishing are not the same thing. And before anybody accuses me of thinking that the older games of the Pokemon series were so much better, I can say that from my experience replaying a lot of games from my youth, a lot of them have aged really poorly or just aren't very good. Likewise, there are titles which have stayed the same or have gotten better with age, and the first few Pokemon games that I played were just a few of them. And it's not like I don't notice flaws in the titles that I love. You guys know how brutal I can be with certain series. It's just me doling out tough love. And there is no series whose love I am more brutal with handing out to than Pokemon. My enthusiasm can only go so far for this series, and when there are games that haven't just matched what they can do, but surpass it in every regard, it's hard for me to get excited for a new Pokemon title. Which brings us to today. Well, January the 8th actually. See, I had just finished recording a new video late at night, and I remembered that there was going to be a Pokemon-themed Nintendo Direct. So, out of pure curiosity, I thought I'd give it a look thinking it would be just another spin-off title announced that got blown out of proportion.
Instead, we got this.
Your new 3D Pokemon adventure is about to begin. Introducing Pokemon X and Pokemon Y.
There is no easy way that I can put this without offending you Poke fans watching this video. I could not be less excited for Pokemon X and Y if I tried to be.
Now don't take this the wrong way, I'm not saying the game looks bad, I'm sure it'll be good. Heck, if I had to bet on it, I'd probably guess that it's gonna be great. But that's the problem. I don't want this generation to be just good. I want this generation to be the next big step, for this generation to really change the way that Pokemon is played. I imagine many of you are leaping in the comment section to label me as another Pokemon fan who longs for the good old days before Vanilla and Trubbish ruined Pokemon, even though we have creeps like this running around in the generations we hold oh so close to our rose-colored glasses. Let me explain. I realized that I may never experience Pokemon the way I did before like I will with Pokemon X and Y, but now I realize it's the point for Pokemon to make that critical leap forward into the third dimension that other Nintendo properties have pulled off with expertise. Super Mario 64 was, for its time, a revolutionary title that brought platformers into the third dimension. Ocarina of Time created the template for all third-person action titles to learn and build upon. And do I even need to waste a second explaining why you need to play Metroid Prime? Pokemon X and Y is the game that I've been waiting for my entire life for. The Pokemon game to get the series to jump into the third dimension and make some big changes. Get out of here, I'm talking about the main series to make that jump. But seeing what I have thus far, my enthusiasm is completely gone. It looks like they're just making this one because they need one for the 3DS. So, what could possibly bring back my attention to these games? Well, I thought about it and I came up with a list of things that I hope will be in Pokemon X and Pokemon Y.
Before we begin, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that this is all my personal opinion. Feel free to disagree with what I've said and what I'm about to say. With that said, this is my list of the top 10 things that I hope for in Pokemon X and Pokemon Y.
Let's do it. I wanna be the very best, like no one ever was. To catch them is my real test. To train them is my cause.
Number 10. Difficulty modes. Pokemon is aimed at kids to be sure, but they're not the only ones who play them, and I'm pretty sure some kids would actually like a challenge in the Pokemon games because they're relatively easy. So why has no game ever given you the standard easy, normal, hard mode like you get in other games when you start up? I don't mean just making them have higher levels like they did with Pokemon Black and White 2, which, by the way, you had to beat the game for. I mean, make the game a greater challenge, throw in some different parties for trainers, make them smarter on higher difficulties with more powerful moves, grant them better rewards for more skilled players. Instead of getting Shockwave from the gym leader, why not Thunderbolt? Or heck, give us a new Electric-type TM. Oh, and since I know somebody's gonna bring this up in the comments, don't even get me started on Nuzlocke.
I know I just can't miss.
Number 9. No more recycled Pokemon sounds. This is something that baffles me about the Pokemon series. Even in the early games, they recycled the same sounds for different Pokemon. That being said, it's 2013 on a brand new console. Just let it go and stop recycling those headache-inducing screeches. I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it sound like they're real animals, but tell me, does this sound anything like this? With the 3DS being able to hold up to 8 GB of memory, I think the fact that Pokemon X and Y are guaranteed to turn over a profit would be a good idea to invest in that and not have the same sounds recycled over and over again. Or if you are going to recycle the sound, take it from the anime show and use those. I mean, at least they're repeating their names and not this. Either make them sound more realistic, more like the anime, or don't bother with them at all. Oh, and while we're at it, can we get rid of this and not try to cover it up with the song? It's annoying either way. I'm not going blind, Game Freak, but if you keep this up, I might be going deaf.
I know I just can't miss.
Number 8. A new type. No, not the light type people keep suggesting, although I wouldn't object to that either. I also heard about a supposed fairy type being introduced, but I highly doubt they'll introduce a type like that when we already have a fairy species of Pokemon that has existed for years. It'd be like if they made Aggron an iron type Pokemon. As for ideas that I'd have for a new type, what about an element like Aether? No, not that one. See, Aether was the 5th element in ancient Greek based off the Hindu word Akasha. It means purity, a form like air, but can also be fiery, incendiary at times. I think a Pokemon like that could really shake up the metagame, able to inflict pain to the flammable grass types while also doling out its purity power to Poison, Bug, Ghost, and those rusty Steelix in Iron Island. Now tell me you guys wouldn't want all of that in one type.
I know I just can't miss.
Number 7. Significant version exclusives. Emphasis on the word significant. Up to this point, the most notable difference between the two versions of a Pokemon game is that one version gives you this legendary on the box and the other one does not. As someone who typically avoids spoiling the newest Pokemon for himself before release, this is pretty much pointless. I mean, in the old games it made sense, it was a marketing ploy to sell more Game Boys, Link cables, and Pokemon games, but with the advent of cableless Wi-Fi allowing you to trade these exclusives over the world, it's pretty much useless to have these two versions besides, well, marketing, money, and tradition. Yeah, we got Black City and White Forest in Pokemon Black and White, but one town isn't cutting it. One of the oldest things that I missed ever since Ruby and Sapphire was the different sprites between the two versions. It wasn't a reason to go out and buy both, but it was neat to see the same Pokemon posed differently. How would an X-Lay pose like this or attack like this and why? What about if in each version you go on different paths that have you fight different trainers, get exclusive items, and TMs? That way, trading between the two wouldn't just be for that one or two Pokemon you couldn't get, it would be for goodies that you collected on your adventure that your friend may or may not have. Heck, what about different gym leaders? There's 17 types at this point. It wouldn't be that hard to divide them between the two with exclusive gyms and themes. Or what about giving us an exclusive Elite Four for each version? How cool would that be?
I know I just can't miss.
Number 6. Customizable appearances for your Pokemon. You guys thought I was gonna talk about changing the main character's look, didn't you? Well, while I'd love to play as a fat Chinese girl named Elizabeth, I don't love the idea enough to put it on the list. Besides, you'll be spending most of your time in battle seeing your Pokemon battle. Now, aside from just making them look different, they could play as a second held item that affects stats, like a beret that raises special defense. I dare you to say you wouldn't like seeing your top hat wearing Charmander facing off against a Tyranitar stroking his elegant mustache.
I know I just can't miss.
Number 5. Non-Pokemon enemies. One of the things that I admire about Pokemon Black and White is that they try to take the series' plot in a new direction. Team Plasma, dressed in the most unfabulous villain clothing, make an argument about whether it's right to make these Pokemon fight in, and let's be honest guys, glorified cockfights. I say I admire this instead of actually like this because their argument completely falls flat when you fight them with Pokemon. You know what this reminds me of?
Pokemon aren't meant to fight. Not like this.
Yes, fighting is truly awful. Let me show you that by knocking your freaking teeth in. Funny how the latest Pokemon's game moral argument is on the same level as Pokemon the first movie.
So you hate all humans, and you're gonna destroy us to save Pokemon?
No.
I mean, seriously, Game Freak, you made Team Plasma, for lack of a better comparison, the Pokemon equivalent of Pizza. Nope, I can't say it. Because at least Team Plasma doesn't go behind everybody's back, killing lillipups and meows, and blaming everybody else like they're the problem.
You will never find the more wretched heart.
Yeah, scum, villainy, every villain is lemons, blah blah blah. The point is that they could have easily fixed this moral dilemma. How? By making the battles you fight against them with not Pokemon or humans. Like, I don't know, have them fight robots.
Robots?
Yes, robots. It'd be like having Pokemon fight, but not having Pokemon fight to make your moral argument completely hypocritical.
I mean, why not? They use various robots in the television show all the time. Would having them be in the game be so radically different? Oh, and just like the show, they could have different robots for different functions. One robot could absorb electricity, another one could be fireproof or launch missiles that disable water types. Heck, let us build a robot and use that in battle.
Bottom line, unless Guestis is a fan of the Beastie Boys, I'm not believing a word he says.
You gotta fight for your right to party. I know I just can't miss.
Number 4. Time travel. When it comes to games and time travel, they tend to be hit or miss, but when they hit, RPGs tend to be a great choice if done well. Chrono Trigger or reading his story, everyone? And what better fit could there be for any series than merging Pokemon with time travel? This would give Ken Sugimori and the other artists the reason to create some truly unique character designs and stop reusing the token bird, rodent, bug Pokemon, and just let them draw whatever species they want. They want to make an anime canonic of this? Go for it. Want to show what happened when Pokemon from other planets invade Earth besides the Oxes? Awesome. There's so much potential if they decided to use time travel in this game besides just new designs. You could explore different regions or the same region in a different time period. Maybe alter the past to make new Pokemon appear, learn different moves in different time periods, explore the mythos behind the region. That's just the few that I can think of myself. I'm sure Game Freak could come up with something even better if they tried. Seriously, why haven't they done this yet? Just go for it, Game Freak!
I know I just can't miss.
Number 3. Multiple save files. I don't know about the rest of you, but occasionally I like to restart my game, start off fresh, get a new starter, maybe even get some eggs. However, I also don't like losing my powerful team of Pokemon that I spent hundreds upon hundreds of hours honing to perfection. This is 2013, people. No one should have to complain about needing more than one save file for any of their games, especially not an RPG that they expect you to put hundreds of hours into.
You want to know one of the reasons why I love Persona 4 so much? You know, aside from the great characters, good mystery, fun combat, and just being an all-around joy to play, you get 16 save files. 16. Persona 4 was made in 2008. Pokemon Black and White 2 came out last year and only gave you 1 save file. What is your excuse, Game Freak? Yeah, I thought so. Next number.
Number 2. No more damn firefighting evolutions.
And no, I'm not joking with this one. I really am putting it this high on the list. I mean, just... why? Why are the fire type starters the only ones to have the exact same type 3 times in a row? 3 times!
Okay, Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire were meant to be a reintroduction to the series with a fresh new take, so the first gym leader being a rock type made sense, making Torchic evolve into a firefighting helped out beginners with the first gym, and Blaziken actually looked pretty cool. But then Diamond and Pearl thought that it would be the best thing to take away from Ruby and Sapphire and made this thing. As you can guess, I'm not a fan of having yet another monkey Pokemon. Especially when I already have a fighting type monkey. And when I first saw the starters for Pokemon Black and White, I honestly was a bit happy when I saw Tepig. It may not have been an amazing design, but I thought to myself, there's no way that they could change this little porker into sweet Merciful Arceus. What the hell is that? What the...
Okay, let me get this straight. Everybody acts like the ice cream is like the end of the Poke World, yet this thing gets a free pass? I mean, just... like... yeah, the Pokemon ice cream looks stupid, but at least it looks tasty too. I mean, this thing just... why?
I kid you not when I say this. Giving us any other typing, any type combo, would be an upgrade to the fire type starter from this.
Game Freak, if I'm gonna fight fire, I'm gonna call it Smokey Bear.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Before we get to number 1, a list of honorable mentions. Things that I wouldn't mind seeing in the next game, but wouldn't hold my breath over for, nonetheless would be appreciated. Or things that I'm sure people are gonna bug me about in the comment section if I don't mention them.
Active time battles. Similar to the earlier Final Fantasy titles, this could help speed up battles and allow for a more strategical approach to double, triple, or rotational battles, assuming they return. Of course, that would also make multiplayer battles a bit more complicated, so I highly doubt it. Deletable HMs. Aside from Surf and Fly, I never use any HMs inside or outside of battle. Game Freak, please fix this. Multiple regions. At this point, I'd be surprised if the new games are even the same size as the region before it. They just keep getting smaller or more linear. At least with the new region, they could size things up and give us an opportunity to beat that smug look off of Green's face again. Better generational transfer. Yet this is always a pain, and it's probably not going to get much better given that we have 2 different systems for 2 different generations. Get rid of the limitations per day, let us use the items we got from the last one, and get rid of the stupid mini-games. Speaking of mini-games, bring back Game Corner. I know Game Freak removed it from the worldwide release of Heart Gold and Soul Silver in favor of Voltorb Flip, and no version of Black and White ever had them, but killing time at the Game Corner in Ruby and Sapphire and Gold and Silver was great. Just bring this back. I think that about covers it, so let's get down to number 1. Gentlemen, we can rebuild it. We have the technology. We have the capabilities to make the world's first Pokemon Nintendo network in the games. Pokemon X and Y will be that game. Better than it ever was before. Better, more modes, faster. They will be Pokemon X and Y multiplayer. Yes, my top pick for this list is better multiplayer. Despite the prospect of global battling and trading and no more tangled 4-player link cables, only the latter has really reached its potential. The former has always been a massive disappointment, either due to always meeting up with some team who is either filled with level 100 legendaries or the tedious nature of the long battle animations and message you have to read, not to mention the actual difficulty of getting a battle in the first place. Let me tell you, when I am more willing to set up my Wii and put in Pokemon Battle Revolution instead of waiting an hour for my Pokemon to make its move, there's something wrong with your multiplayer. And don't even get me started on whatever mess was the Dream World. This time around, don't make us have to type out those arbitrary friend codes or have to register on some site or whatever the heck the C gear was supposed to be. Just let us match up with someone online through a vast amount of options with no limits on the same items we can hold, and let us have a good time. Do what Mario Kart we did and award points to wins and losses, both solo and team matches. This way, the online battles aren't just filled with people who are out of your league or below you, and there's always an incentive to put in a multiplayer match or two. If you want, you can use these brand new points to get brand new items for battling or to improve your rank instead of the level 50 class and the level 100 class, which was stupid, but still keep your rank title on the road to becoming the very best that no one ever was. Use Street Pass and let us meet up with other trainers in the area at a secret base for item collecting and duking it out. Also, expand the modes beyond the minuscule amount that we have now. What about a rivalry mode in the regular game? Co-op mode, type mode, starter mode, random mode. Heck, just give us a tournament mode. If the multiplayer included a tournament mode, then I would be more than willing to try a tournament out with you guys. Not because I have so few friends to play the game with. From my own experience, I can say that I've enjoyed playing tournaments with my friends with a lot of Pokemon games that we did ourselves. Game Freak, take up everything that has worked in the past and just go wild with the multiplayer modes. Give it all you got. Pokemon is a series that was created from day one to connect people, first by trading, then battling. Now more than ever, they can do that. Launching at around the same time in all regions, how cool would it be to be able to battle someone from across the world, day one, with no strings attached in Pokemon X and Pokemon Y? Oh, what a wonderful game that would be. That is why better multiplayer features are my #1 hope for Pokemon X and Pokemon Y.
So those are my top 10 hopes for the next generation of Pokemon and the jump to 3D for the series. As a closing note, I'd like to say that as a fan, I really do hope that Pokemon X and Y are able to shatter my expectations and turn out to be masterpieces that prove me entirely wrong. But, as a fan of the series, I also have to realize that there are times where I have to be brutally honest, and this is one of those times. Until next time, game on, my friends.
We all live in a Pokemon world.